The views and opinions expressed within the video content found on the Indie Comics Network are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Indie Comics Network or its sponsors. Have a question or comment for us to address on the show? Have a topic you want us to talk about? Email us at indiecomicsnetwork@gmail.com. Want your comics to arrive in pristine condition? Head over to GeminiComicSupply.com and save 10% on your next Gemini mailer order or anything in the Gemini Comics Supply store. Use coupon code RAGIN10. That's RAGIN 10.
Yeah. Let's just go get
Here we are.
Hey.
Hey. Good morning, breakfast clubbers.
All right, and welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, sketchy Saturday. I am C. Michael Lanning, independent graphic translator, comic book artist, done work for Arrow Comics, the upcoming Doghouse from Haus Productions, and all that stuff, and finally making it back here on the live streaming side. So how's everybody doing this morning? Let's go around. Let's talk about what we're working on and who we are. John.
Okay, I'm John Celestri. I've been a classic 2D animator for almost 50 years now, and also do my own comic books. And so today I will be, continuing the scene that I started last week here, actually animating. So I'm just going to continue the process.
Awesome.
Who's that?
That's me.
That was. Who are you?
Hey, everybody. I muted my phone, forgot to mute my watch. Hey, everybody. I'm Rodney Fyke. I am a writer, artist, colorist, everything. Except I'm not the tech guy. Just don't confuse me with that. I'm working on my Kang and he is available for purchase if anybody's interested. I just thought I'd do, since Ant-Man's coming out in a month, I thought I'd do a Kang since he's going to be the new baddie. So
yeah.
That's what I got on the board. I was working on some Kirby Crackle backstage, and that's what we're doing.
Kirby Crackle.
Crackle.
Just for people who don't know, show us what the Kirby Crackle is, Rodney. What do you mean by Kirby Crackle?
It's the space effects here, where you do the lines and then you add the little black holes, and then you'll put the white holes in the black areas.
Yeah.
And it was a way to fill up dead space to make it look more dynamic. So
it does. It's definitely something that has lasted years and years and years. It's become a technique that's really, really used. And
you can actually make a brush that does Kirby Crackle.
Oh,
I think I have one on Clip Studio or something like that has one of those.
Yeah,
I kind of like doing it. Doing it myself. It's just
I
can't do it well, but I do it.
Yeah, I keep wondering about that because, we are, if you keep doing what is already on the, I guess what everybody else can do, then where's your individuality? That's my,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Come up with something else. I mean, Ditko did stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, but you could tell, a Steve Ditko crackle from from something that Kirby did. I mean, you can't confuse the two.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just that there's a bit of yourself in everything you do. So
Yeah.
I do see a lot of people. I see a lot of people try to mimic Joe Mad style. And don't get me wrong, and I like Joe Mad, I do. But who's a comic book artist? In case anybody doesn't know, who did Battle Chasers, X-Men, things of that nature. Back in the '90s, late 90s. Now he does video games, I think.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that try to mimic that style, which I get the style, but I mean, just use it and mix it up with some other people that you like. I think David Finch had made the statement before that all his style is just trying to draw like other people. So
yeah,
and I don't think he means like try to actually mimic it. It's just those he wants it to look good like that. But
yeah, he's a mishmash of influences.
oh yeah.
I am doing good.
Huh?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just thought I was filling an empty air there. Go ahead. Carry on.
Oh no, but he has his apprentice that he taught was Jason Fabik, who did the three Jokers, I think it was, comic book recently, and he's a really good artist too. But he learned a lot from David Finch, and you could see Finch's influence. But I can look at his stuff and go, oh, well, that's Jason Fabik. So that despite who or what influence you get, you end up putting your own spin to it eventually.
Yeah, and it comes out subconsciously. You don't realize it. You start off, going with the comfortable stuff, with your influences, and then through the process, you just subconsciously revert to what ultimately becomes your style.
I think that happened to Greg Capullo, didn't it?
Yeah.
Where he was mimicking Todd McFarlane's style. Of course, he was mimicking it because he was doing a Todd book. He was doing Sam and Twitch.
Yeah.
And eventually, he said he knew he had to move on from that and kind of move out and branch out to his own style, which he has. You could look at a Capullo and a Todd McFarlane piece and tell the difference.
You know who's a really good example of that is Tony Daniels. When he was over with Todd's studio, he was very Todd-esque. And the Todd's studio had a look, just like Extreme Studios had a look.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Wildstorm had a look. Yeah. But his stuff now looks nothing like the stuff he did with Todd.
I wouldn't even thought that, because the first thing that comes to mind when I think Tony Daniels is Noctera or Nocturna.
Yeah.
It's a book he was doing with I don't even know if it's still going, with Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even think that was mimicking, or that doesn't even look anything like Todd.
Right. Yeah, that's my point. It's just he's come so far in 20 years, or Jesus, has it been? I guess it's been 25, 30 years. God,
Tony Daniels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't. I'll be honest with you. I'm not familiar enough with him to really, outside of that one comic. So I'm really not familiar. But he's a good artist. He's a fantastic artist.
I find myself like I'll be scrolling through the interwebs, looking at artwork and stuff, and I'll see a piece of his, and I'll be like, "Wow, that looks nothing like his stuff from when he was with McFarlane."
I'm gonna have to go back. What was he doing back then? Was he doing Spawn or?
I don't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head what he was doing.
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
The internet remembers.
Yeah, the internet knows.
But let's see. There's some people in the chat that say hello, Efrain. Good morning, Efrain. How are you today? And then, of course, Glenn Fleming. Guys.
What's
He
that,
says
man?
it, and here we have C drawing outside the box.
There we go.
All right, Glenn. It says, and look at that gorgeous pen Rod is using. 1010, man. It is pretty. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So yesterday I ended up getting stuck on watching a guy on YouTube. He was with the Proco Studios, and I'm sure y'all heard of Proco.
Oh yeah.
And but he does the force books. I don't know if you've seen these books. They're about movement and force in drawing. His name is Mark. Now you see, I knew that name beforehand, and now I've completely got it. Anyway, but hey, Matassi, Michael Matassi, not even Mark. Look at that, that's horrible. Anyway, but that got me to thinking. We talked about it on this show before, where we were, John said when he was, coming up, he had, drawing the natural way. There wasn't too many drawing books, right? I got that right?
Yeah, it's Nicolaides drawing the natural way. Yes,
right.
Natural way to draw. Yes.
And Rodney, what was around when you were younger? What kind of books did you have coming up to learn how to draw?
I had Bern Hogarth's Dynamic Anatomy, Dynamic Light and Shade, Dynamic Heads and Hands. And then the other book, I can't remember the name of it, but it was white with like a red border on it. Actually, Richard Jones pulled it up on Thursday Night Throwdown the other night. He's got it too. But I've that's been on my bookshelf since I was probably 15 years old.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now I think so. And of course, when I was young, I had those books. Those books were around, and of course, there was a time period there, late 70s, well, mid 80s, I guess, where you had the how to draw 50 cartoon books or how to draw certain monsters, and which just kind of taught you the base, step by step drawing, right? Not even really how to think drawing. So, but we didn't really have all this access to it. Now, this is my train of thought. This is what I think about. So, but I should be paying attention to the tutorial. So what's it going to look like in 10 years with artists that have been looking at these tutorials on YouTube and things like that? We think we're going to see a surgence of a return to better. So, well, and I say return, take that the way you want to better art, or are we going to see kind of a surgence of just a simpler is better idea?
I think it's going to be both. I think just because there's room for both and there's a demand for both. Mm-hmm. I've definitely noticed for probably like a couple years, maybe 3 years ago, manga just kind of took over, and everybody under the age of 35 was doing manga. And now it's kind of slowly turning towards more the traditional comic book style illustration. It's kind of a amalgam of anime and comic book art. That's just been my observation. But I think there's room for all of it. So I think it's all going to be there, but you're going to see the influences in the mishmashes of styles. My judgment.
Yeah. I think that the important thing is that people will understand what's a really okay. Art is in the eyes of the beholder. I understand that, but sometimes I think that people think that just because they did it, means it works. I mean, there are things that that people find appealing and don't,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
and to say, oh well, this is just, this is good because I say it's good. It's kind of like saying I'm a doctor because I say I'm a doctor. I can hold a knife and I can cut meat, and I'm a surgeon. There's a certain kind of storytelling abilities or getting across a point, is very, I mean, it's just there. Either you are successful or you're not, and something appeals to a certain age group. That's one thing, but at a certain level, you understand that I can be better than just throwing stuff down.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And so I'm not big on realistic art. I mean, I just don't do photo, the photorealism, or super realism. And I understand, fantasy, you're trying to create a reality, and that's fine. But I see so much of this. It's a style, okay?
Right.
And I look and I go, okay, that's good. But you know what? I don't need to see 100 different imitators of that style.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's all. And that's but that's just me. I mean, some people will eat McDonald's every day of the week, and I just can't do that.
Oh God. Please don't make me. And unfortunately, in this copycat society that we live in, and Marvel and DC have both been guilty of this for decades. When somebody hits a John Byrne or a George Perez or a Jim Lee or Joe Madureira, all these the companies tend to produce clones that can mimic the same thing. I think that's kind of the same thing we were talking about with Tony Daniels and Greg Capullo with Todd McFarlane. Mm-hmm. Is they kind of want all of their books to have that same look, that same feel, and you get the clones, a generation of clones, and then like we were talking with Tony over the course of his career, he gets away from that assignment or that studio, and he develops his own thing. And what he's doing now looks nothing like what he was doing 20 years ago.
And it just shows that he's progressed. He's
yeah, absolutely.
He's learning. If an artist is in the same place that he was 20 years ago, you have to kind of ask why, right? Yeah. It always seems you never get to me, it seems as though you never fully get to a stopping point as an artist. You're always still learning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, school's in session every day. I say that all the time. You're always learning.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, something's wrong.
Yeah. What's interesting about these tutorials, I was in the middle of all these. This guy comes up, and he makes this and it's an ad for another, like a drawing art school or whatever. Because there's like on the internet, there's like 100 drawing schools, right?
Yeah.
But he comes up and he's talking about how great this one guy who's teaching you how to do art is. And he does say something that's pretty interesting. He said, you have all these YouTube videos, but they're very hyper specific. Like they're not teaching you the overall, like say, we talk about on here, like the energy or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not talking about, they're very hyper on how to draw the muscles in an arm, and that's how you draw the muscles in an arm. But they're not really. Not many of them are there to tell you how to attach that arm to the rest of the drawing.
Yeah. I mean, and when I was younger, my biggest struggle was because I spent so much time just drawing like headshots and from like the clavicle up, and then I realized that I couldn't attach the hips. I couldn't attach the lower part of the torso to hips and legs, and I was like, okay, well, I need to really work on this, because you just spend so much time doing headshots and stuff, and you're not conscious. That's not something that you've had to do, so you don't do it, and then you realize you can't do it, and you're like, oh, I need to fix this.
Well, I find it interesting that you concentrate on the pieces, but as you say, people don't know how to connect the pieces.
Yes.
Right.
And that's one of the things that Nicolaides, that book is very basic, which is a 30-second sketch or even a 10-second sketch. You get the essence of the energy that is coming through your drawing to the pose. And then, since you know where everything is connected, if you've studied that, then you know how the bones, and the pieces and the parts of the anatomy connect to form that energy, because you've just seen that human being pose that way.
Yep.
And so it's important to do everything. You just can't just say, oh, I'll just do this. Take the what is it, the model where you can. I've never used the little statue guy. Where you kind of can manipulate everything. It's a standing puppet. Articulated.
Right. Yeah.
I never used that to use as a guide to pose something, because that's puppetry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is, isn't it?
It's puppetry, and stop motion is purely that. That's but everything is useful, but to what end? And if you don't have a story to tell, what you've got is a nice pinup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what happens to a lot of them. Is that's why you see a lot of the pinup artists and not as much sequentials, because they're doing that very thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I have told a kid or a grown person at a convention, when they ask me to look at their portfolio, and it's all pinups. And, I'll have to give them the whole spiel about, you need sequential work. They don't, it's obvious that you can do a pinup. Everybody can do a pinup, but can you do sequential work? And, sometimes I've actually had to sit and explain what sequential work is. And then not just sequential work, but what they're looking for. They're looking for consistency in the character. They're looking to see if you can draw Spider-Man sitting in the kitchen drinking a cup of coffee and make it look interesting.
Right.
Can you draw the mundane interestingly?
Yeah. A master animator, Frank Thomas, who is one who animated Captain Hook. Okay, let's just get you for example. Okay, he said the hardest thing to do, and he did Tramp and Lady and the Tramp, and he was the one who animated that, the spaghetti eating sequence with the two dogs.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and he said, now that's kind of boring, he said the most boring thing to do and the most difficult thing to do is to walk a character across the street, because it's mechanical. But why? You have to do something. And with that scene, the thing that makes it work is there's a section in that spaghetti eating sequence where they're not just chewing and hitting. Tramp offers the last meatball to Lady.
Yeah.
That's acting.
Yeah.
They're not just chowing down on spaghetti. They are acting, but you're trying to believe two dogs can do this. And obviously they're anthropomorphic, but there's still a believability. And look at how structurally Thomas needed to understand how dogs are connected, how it all works. So there's an enormous amount of knowledge that you have to have, and it's all there for you to study. Now, you may not, want to do something that is super realistic. I don't like doing animals, and walking around. I'm just not one of those. I'm much more cartoony, but still understanding how the elbows connecting. You've got to be, if you're going to do a caricature of something, understand what you're caricaturing. And that means studying anatomy, studying the hard stuff.
Yeah.
You
got to have a full bag of tools.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was talking about this with my daughter last night. Clip Studio has this, I guess you would call it the digital puppetry, John. Those models and everything, and she has seen tutorials. And be careful, folks. If you go out there to get a tutorial, look at the person's stuff. Yeah. Because if their stuff doesn't look good and they're giving you a tutorial, you probably don't want to take that route. If it doesn't appeal to you, you might not want to take that. But she was talking about looking at these tutorials, and they were just telling her, just trace these drawings or trace these, statues to get what you want. And the thing about doing that is, so basically you're tracing without ever understanding any anatomy, understanding why this works. Mm-hmm. Why does this connect here? Why does this cause this? And it looks stale. It looks stiff. It looks stale. It's not
static.
You're not getting what you want. Right.
Yeah. Which is why gesture drawings are, in my opinion, are so important. Because you're not just it's one thing, like John says, it's one thing to know, the slot A fits into tab B and the shoulder looks right. But if the action, that line of action isn't there, you're losing half the battle.
Yeah. Because basically understanding what is the energy and emotion that's coming across in that pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of kids don't understand that because in their minds they're, I gotta make whatever anime character that they're trying to draw.
Right.
Put them in front of an exploding mountain or whatever. It just make it look cool, but they're not understanding is the gesture right, is the energy right. And it shows, and they don't understand it because they really don't get what they're looking at yet, and it's all part of that learning process.
Yeah.
Well, you see this kind of stuff, and there's a lot of people who go into drawing anime and manga because they think that it's easy to do, and they're like, oh, well, that's not really drawing well, so I could do that. I could do that and get away with it and everything. But one thing that is, if it looks easy, it's good and it looks easy. Most of the time, it's really not. It's really not.
No, the ones who are professional, it's only because they've been they understand all the elements. Easiness only comes from practice and understanding what you're doing. If you don't understand what you're doing, you're faking it. And I tell you, at some point you've lost the ability. You become boring.
Yeah.
Right.
That's something that's just real.
And that's something you definitely don't want to be as boring.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, when anime was first started coming over here from Japan, there was very limited. There was Akira, and then there was Appleseed, and I just fell in love with Appleseed because of the detail, with all the mech and stuff like that, and I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't understand it, couldn't read it, but I bought it anyway because it was just absolutely gorgeous. And fast forward 30 years, and now it's all really simplified, and I don't like most of it because it's just simplified and it's very boring, one dimensional, and yawn.
It's funny how you can like something. I think that happened with a lot of us in the 90s with the Image Revolution and the X-Men #1 and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is a lot of that was Todd likes to say he says do it but make it sexy. But when you go back and you look at it and you learn art, you kind of start and you go back and you look at those and you go, huh. That's not as dynamic as I remember it being.
Yeah, and I realized this back then because we were doing our stuff. It was very apparent to me that they had no editors because of everything, all the flaws and everything that you see, and all the staleness, and if you compare, style wise and flair wise, yeah, it was cool. It was what it was when they were all at Marvel. But
right.
The meat of it all wasn't there. The technical stuff was lacking. The stories were lacking. The editorial influence was completely absent. And I remember growing up that how rare it was to ever find a typo in a printed page, and that started becoming a thing. And even now today, it's like, wow, this is wrong. These words. Where's the editor at?
Yeah, I was about to say, in my day, it wasn't that uncommon.
Yeah.
Again, I was I think I was in first year of high school when Image came out. So. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking on those guys at all.
No, not at all.
A long shot. And they'll tell you some of the same stuff we're saying now. But
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that was also them just trying to get it out because at that point, especially at that point in time, or I guess even today, if you're not quick, you'll get forgotten.
Yeah,
and they needed to play on their reputations real quick.
And the other thing too that a lot of people don't understand is they were all kids. They were in their mid to late 20s, and all of a sudden, I mean, they were making good money with Marvel, but they're making all of a sudden they're making fuck you money. And I won't name the people, but there are some of the second generation Image guys that came with their books that I became pretty good friends with, and they told me that they took all the money that they made from their first issue and they went to the Caribbean and spent 3 months on the beach drinking pina coladas and pissed away the opportunity, and issue 2 kept getting delayed, and it finally came out to lukewarm reception, and then there was never an issue 3, and they lost the momentum. And that's just youth, the ignorance of youth. But yeah, it's.
I actually remember Todd talking about that, where basically they had all these issue 1s, And then they're like calling people up, like, okay, we need issue 2. We need issue 2. And they made like a year's salary off of one issue. And they're kind of like, they never made that much money before in their lives.
Yeah.
So then it's, but they fail to understand that you have to keep it up. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
Otherwise it stales.
It's
Or you piss people off.
Right. It's a 30-day cycle. You got to do
either.
this every 30 days.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the professional aspect of doing this work that that really is something that people don't really. They don't understand it. I mean, a one-hit shot. There are one-hit wonders, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens is that people are, they get successful, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I really got to keep this going somehow.
Yeah. Money runs out, folks. That's
Yeah.
how it is. Money runs out. Fame runs out. It just keeps. And those that you still see nowadays that are still going are ones that moved on to something else or progressed.
Yeah.
Right. And with, let's just say, with crowdfunding, okay, you come up with a good idea, but how do you keep it going? Is it sustainable?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing is if what you want to do is just have a standalone and that's it, well, that's great. But if you think that you start with an idea and you said, okay, I've got the setup, and you don't know where what's the setup going? What are you setting up in your book? You spend so much time doing world building, and you do great art, but your story is going nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's where I get really bored with so many of the of the books, or not just books, but just movies, the series.
Oh yes, yeah.
They really spend a lot of time setting up things, and then I'm not looking for a continually being, there's a problem on top of a problem on top of a problem, but at a certain point, how are the characters reacting? Why should I care?
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's getting away from the art aspect of it, but with in terms of telling a story, there's a lot you can do. If everybody's got an ordinary situation, but it's the characters involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you make those characters believable and have you care about them?
Yeah, and if you've thought out your characters enough, and they all have individual personalities and stuff, each individual character is going to react differently to any given situation, which that in itself, one, you've done your homework, you've done your job, and two, it's just more interesting for the reader because they're going to know that character A is not going to respond the same as character B when dragons are coming through the portal in the sky.
Right.
But and that's we're talking about simple storytelling. We're not talking about being Hemingway, who has really simplified all kinds of things, but basically understanding what the elements of story is. And that's what you're going to draw. It gives you something interesting to draw and something interesting for your reader to follow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kind of one reason I lost interest in The Walking Dead. At one point, it was the same problems, same type of people, just different names, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna move on now. So,
yeah, they keep stumbling upon these little towns and little civilizations, and there was a governor and a Negan and whoever else at each location. It was the same story over and over.
Yeah, I think in the comics, I think that's what Robert Kirkman actually realized that it was just time to move on.
Yeah.
And that's how come he ended it the way he did. He just kind of went, okay, it's done. Which more power to him. I mean, he could have. And if you don't know, he just ended it. He didn't tell. It wasn't a big fanfare. It wasn't this is the last issue, or anything like that. It just ended. It was done, and it didn't end on like 200. It ended on issue 193, and to the point that it's basically the biggest shock kill in all of the Walking Dead comic book was the death of the book itself.
Yeah. Well, he Tony Soprano'd us.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, you know. Just
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Well, the screen just went black, you know.
Yeah.
And you had to the creators left it up to you to interpret what happened. They set up the scene. They spent the whole last season setting up the scene. They told you what they were going to do, and the last episode they went through the motions, and at the end they just inferred it. And to the point where people thought that their TVs had gone out.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I never watched it. I never saw it.
It just goes black. And I myself, I jumped up and like, what the hell? What's wrong with the TV? And it was just, that's how it ended.
Oh, that would piss me off so much.
Well, you know what? But there's a line in one of those episodes, you know, the last season, where he says, "You'll never know."
Yeah, they're all. It's him and Bobby Baklava. They're in that boat on the lake.
Yeah, it says, "You'll never know, and you'll never see it."
Right? Does it all just go black?
Well,
Bobby asked him that, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and they talk about, you know, and it'll be somebody that you don't suspect.
Yeah,
will do it. So, you know, that's all part of. I mean, he did set it up, and if you're waiting for some kind of over dramatic stuff, well, what would you expect? You know, I mean, if you're going to kill, you know, your character, that character's gone. That character is not going to, you know, we're not talking about floating above the ceiling or anything. That's the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody was expecting this grandiose exit or ending or whatever. Yeah. And it was just so perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I loved it. A lot of people were pissed off about it. But once I realized that the TV, there was nothing wrong with the TV, and it dawned on me what they'd done, I thought to myself, oh, this is brilliant.
No, I've never watched The Sopranos, so I didn't know.
Oh, well.
I've never seen
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that show ended, 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't expect anybody to keep anything from me.
No. That's just a very... it's gone, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I hear it's a great show. I've never gotten to watch it, and I like mobster, you know, gangster stuff. In fact, we're going to be talking about that not this coming week, but the next week, on Dispatches, about, you know, the influence of the gangster in you know, comics or whatever in our stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because at that point in time when Sopranos was out, HBO wasn't as easily accessible as it is now. I guess.
Right.
You had cable.
Pre-streaming. Yeah.
Yes, right. I think they released it on like AMC, but they had to cut out parts and everything because at that point in time you still couldn't show.
Well, I would watch. I remember watching because of HBO didn't, you know, do the whole thing. Okay, it was like the third season or second season, whatever it is. I had we got DVDs.
Oh yeah.
You know, to catch up. You know, so Blockbuster. You know, that's what we would do. Yeah. And so that's how we found out what was going on. Then finally we said, okay, well let's get HBO for The Sopranos.
And it was so interesting because that was we talked about it on Thursday Night Throwdown. That was like everybody would come over to your house and you had Soprano watching parties, just like you had the Walking Dead watching parties and the Game of Thrones and all that stuff. I mean, people actually, because it was always, they'd watch the late football game, the 4:00 game, which usually ended around 7:30. 8:00, the Sopranos came on, so we were going straight from a full day of football right into the Sopranos. And everybody was already together watching football, and they just kind of hung out and started watching Sopranos.
I have to check it out. I mean, like, one of my favorite movies is Goodfellas.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Lorraine Baracco is like his therapist, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
There are a lot of people that were in Goodfellas that are in The Sopranos. Paulie Walnuts was in Goodfellas. Michael Imperioli.
Yeah.
Played Spider in the Goodfellas, and he's Tony's nephew in the series.
Yeah. That was everybody. I mean, there was a coterie of people there. I mean, you knew who was going to be there.
Yep.
Because that's just the way, the bodies and the you can't fake those attitudes very much.
Yeah, I mean, it was so authentic. And most of those actors were from that area.
Mm-hmm.
Paulie Walnuts was basically playing himself. He was a gangster. He spent time in prison,
Yeah.
One of the best characters in the series, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is that the gentleman that just died recently?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he just passed away.
A lot of them have gone this year because Paul Sorvino too.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Ray Liotta just passed like 6 months ago.
Oh my gosh, it's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think any of them saw it coming.
No. I know we didn't. Oh my gosh. I was really sad about Ray Liotta. That was a shocker.
Yeah, because nobody knew he was sick.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Allison. I got guys all in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Blue Teddy Nations, Glenn's loving your drawing. See?
No, I know. Yeah, I see it. I put him up there.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, that is one show. If you want to, not only are the characters great, but the storytelling in that series is just phenomenal.
Those are good things to take, especially like camera angles and certain scenes, and understand how those work to convey the emotion.
Yeah.
What was I watching? Oh, I started watching it. I didn't finish it, but there is this Indian movie on Netflix. It's like over the top called I think it's called RRR.
Oh,
just the letter R. RRR.
okay.
And it's very like over the top action. Like, it's getting back to a point. They're at a point where, no, that can't happen. We're not trying to make it look like it could happen. We got to a point in our cinema where we say, well, can that really happen? This stuff just kind of goes jumping over fences, suspended in air. That they don't care. They'll do it. Fighting a tiger. But,
Okay.
just crazy stuff, but it's fun. It was just straight up fun stuff. You don't go to a movie to see something real. I think we kind of got away from that, and that's kind of hindered our cinema experience. It's like, oh, well, can you do that in real life? I don't care. I don't. Right. I want to see somebody sucker punch a tiger, knock him out.
Yeah, that's why you go to the movies, to escape.
That's why. Yeah. And it's very over the top stuff, but it's not it's not ridiculous like spoof over the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But watching that, and the filmmakers have this fantastic sense of drama and action and how to convey that in their shots, which I would suggest going to check it out. It's a 3-hour movie. I have not finished that movie. I had to do something else, and I watched like 30 minutes into it, more so than I should have been because I needed to do something else. I just wanted to see how over the top it was. But it's I don't know. It's weird. It's because there's a fine line, I guess. And I'm kind of talking out of my head here, but there's kind of a fine line where it's not it doesn't have to be believable, but it has to be not corny. I guess.
Well, it's kind of like the movie Pulp Fiction, where
Right.
it was so out of the box. Just the things that were happening that it was almost like that. It was almost unreal, but at the same time, it was enthralling. But yeah, I mean, you hadn't seen that in cinema in so long, and there it was, and it's almost the same thing without the crazy exaggeration, but more the exaggeration in the plot twists and what the characters do than the action sequences.
Right. And I mean, a lot of that was just like say, for instance, he'd make a punch in a punching bag and it knocked out the other side.
Yeah.
It can't happen, but damn, it looked cool.
Right. Yeah.
But really, and cinema is a great place to really, when you get a good movie, somebody who knows what they're doing, or even more so, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a good movie as much as a good cinematographer.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're doing. I'll give you an instance, and you can argue with me if you want. I won't really argue back, but Batman Forever, okay, wasn't the best movie by a long shot, but the production designs on that set really placed you in a different world.
Yeah.
Which is what I favor even over this new Batman stuff.
Well, I mean, I think that's whole part of the responsibility of a cinematographer, a director of photography, whatever, is creating that artificial construct for your story to happen in. And those that do it well. I mean, those that do it well really stand out from those that just do it.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say.
But last night we watched the new Puss in Boots movie.
Oh, okay.
Which was fantastic. Really, it was very clever. The animation style was really interesting. It wasn't. It kept to the spirit of the older ones, like the Shrek and everything, but it didn't stay as that same style throughout. So that was kind of cool. But I thought what was interesting on there is I was looking at the credits, and a lot of people always want to go to the director or the actors and everything and think about these movies, and they don't think about the storyboard artists. Like these storyboard artists are the ones who come up with some of these great shots to do. But what was interesting is they had on there a couple of different titles I've never seen before. Like one was, just to give you an example, one was Head of Look.
Head of Look?
Head of Look.
Huh.
And I think that was like maybe keeping the consistency of the style. I had never heard of that before.
Yeah, that's
There's a head of look ahead of something else, and I guess it worked for them because they did a pretty good job of whatever. If it was head of look, it looks good. So I guess they did their job.
I think that was a producer's thing, you know.
It could
Head of
be.
look. Yeah, that's not an official title in any union category that I know of. Wow. A head of look.
Head of look, and there's a couple other different heads.
A head of lettuce. A head of lettuce.
fill in a marker, folks. Hang on. Hi, buddy. Sherman's in the house. Everybody say hi to Sherman.
Hi.
Sherman.
I don't see him.
Yeah. He's here. He's begging for some attention. What's up, buddy? Huh.
So now that you did Keg, you're going to do a MODOK too, Rodney?
No. Answer that one real quick.
Yeah, I've never been a MODOK fan per se.
No, I've always thought it was the stupidest character.
I can't believe the way that they're doing it in the movie was kind of.
Yeah, I've seen the hints of him. There hasn't been really any clear pictures of him. So who knows what they're going to give us.
Oh, you haven't seen the big head?
I saw the big head.
No, behind Kang
Yeah.
with the face. It's what's his name? Yellow Jacket
Oh, Hank Pym.
from
Yeah.
from the first one.
Oh, okay. What's that? I know who you're talking
Corey
about.
Stoll.
Yeah, Corey Stoll. Stoll, yeah. Interesting.
What do you think was the idea behind that character design? Who was it? Was that a Kirby? That wasn't a Kirby, huh? No,
Which one?
he came much
MODOK?
later. Yeah.
I have no idea. That was John's probably better equipped to answer that question. That MODOK was way before my time.
And that was after I stopped reading comic books.
No, it was a Kirby apparently.
Yeah, when was that around?
When did he show up? Let's look. MODOK, which is an acronym. They can't even decide on what the M stands for. Mental, mobile, or mechanized organism designed only for killing. Let's see. When did he? First appearance was in Tales of Suspense, 1967.
You see? Now there you go. I was in college at the time. 1967. Yeah, I was I had stopped reading comics at that point. I know it sounds like, how could I? Well, I was busy trying to, I don't know, stay out of the draft. And keeping my grades up in college to keep my 2S. What was it? It was a 2S deferment. Yeah, student deferment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry. I know I'm recognizing the name somehow, but I can't tell you anything. Sorry.
I think they've tried to make him relevant. They did a TV show on Hulu about a year ago with Patton Oswalt playing the character.
Yeah.
Because it's such a ridiculous character, much like Patton Oswalt. And I don't think it took. I don't think anybody cared.
Yeah, we watched. We didn't watch the entire first season. It was funny at first, and then it became very quickly started becoming painful. And so we just kind of bowed out and never finished it.
Right. Yeah, Tales of Suspense. That's right, Alice. Tales of Suspense number 93. I think that's right. Yeah, he might have cameoed in 94. Maybe so. But, yeah, it wasn't. I remember MODOK being around when I was younger. I don't think he was ever a big character. I don't ever remember if he was ever in any of the animated series when I was growing up, like Spider-Man or X-Men or anything like that.
Okay, Murdoch. Wasn't Murdoch the friend of the character, the Daredevil's friend and lawyer?
That was
Murdoch.
Foggy Nelson.
No,
Pardon?
Foggy Nelson. Matt Murdoch.
Matt Murdoch.
That's Daredevil's alter ego.
yeah,
Right.
This is MODOK. MODOC.
Well, I'm sorry. It just sounds. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
See, that's a problem for me sometimes when you have too many similar names.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, like, you know, a casual reader, like, you know, and I'll put myself in that. Sometimes they say, "Wait a minute, how close is this?" You know.
Yeah.
And anyway, okay, that's.
Like I said, he was a Captain American foe. I don't think he's missing anything. Knowing who it is, it's probably. I think the reason that they put him in Ant-Man is because it is a ridiculous character, and they're not, you know, and the Ant-Man movies are kind of tongue in cheek anyway. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I like the first one anyway. Ant-Man. I wonder what the design thought behind that being is. Was it? Oh, let's just make a big head with little legs and little arms. It just looked cool.
Well, I think it probably, you know, it was right around the time when, you know, the space race was going on, and you know, the Russians put a monkey in space and stuff like that. So that was probably all heavily influenced by that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would think, you know, I could be wrong.
You never know. It might have been one of those things that the silhouette looked like it worked.
Yeah.
It definitely has a unique silhouette. I will say that much.
Yes.
Let me see. I actually finished that piece. I'm kind of surprised. I had another piece around here somewhere. I was going to do. Oh, here it is. It's still in the bird. Oh. I was still trying to get the handle of this whole inking traditional thing. It's with pens anyway.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I saw the characters that you were going to ink today, and I was like, "Ooh, I'd like to ink those." Because, you know, it was actually yesterday. See, I was going through some, was reviewing the script for Doghouse with the pages, and you know, I got all the pages printed out, but I had some of the pages, like 3 of the pages that were just pencils. For whatever reason, I didn't print out the inks, but it didn't matter. And I was just looking at the pencils, going, "Wow, I'd really like to ink some of these." Don't have the time.
Oh no. Yeah, these were actually some stuff that I did. I was on a down thing, and this is, if you don't know, this is the anybody who's watching. This is the Umbrella Academy. The one I just finished was Kraken, or Diego from the Umbrella Academy, and this is Rumor. Allison, I think is her name. So it was just something I did back when I think like the second season was out, maybe. because I did the gorilla head one. So
Okay.
So Glenn says, Pearls Before Swine, MODOK is one of the best villains we have from Kirby, and he created a lot.
Well, sometimes we're just not eating from the same trough.
We'll see. Allison says it's a great name, though. So,
yeah, I mean the thing, I never really remember him being in any book that. I distinctly remember the cover, one of the covers of Captain America, where he's on the cover, and it's an ant's eye view looking up, and he's there, and I could see it in my mind, but I never read the book. I just remember the cover, and I remember him popping up every once in a while in Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
But God, that was so long ago. There's nothing there. I got nothing.
Hey, look, it's maybe I'm just judging the cover, right? Judging the book by the cover, but I never saw how they were going to do that live action anyway. So, but they are, so more power to them. I gotta hand it to it with as far as Kang is concerned, because the character does. Yep, I only eat from the best. Okay, all right. But they look like they get pretty accurate with Kang, huh?
Yeah, I was actually watching that trailer and thinking, oh, that's pretty impressive.
Now they're saying that Kang was a relative of a distant future relative of Reed Richards.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they ultimately say that he is Reed Richards from the future. That wouldn't shock.
Well, there was a character called the Thinker.
Yep.
It's like a parallel universe. Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Which actually I really liked. It just goes to show you, and I think that's just something they should explore, but they never will. In the movies, is how quickly Reed Richards could become the bad guy.
Oh yeah. They always talk about how geniuses eventually go mad because they know too much.
Well, with Reed, when they did, Allison said, "Yep, Kang is related to Reed." But when they did Civil War, which I'll be honest with you, I do not know why people think that movie is the greatest movie. But whatever. But in the comic, he was part of the one as far as the Sokovia Accords were concerned, and I can't remember if that's what they called it in the comic book, where he basically built the prison, right? Maybe the raft. It might have been called the raft, or it might have been something different.
I think it was a raft.
Was it the raft in the? I know it was in the movie, but was it the raft in the comic?
I think
remember.
so. Yeah.
And so ultimately, he was on the side of revealing your identity. He was there with Iron Man and stuff. So in that, he was kind of the villain. So
I saw. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Adam Driver. They're talking about Adam Driver as Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No. No, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen Adam Driver in anything where I thought he had a personality. And so, Reed Richards is he's not really a dull guy.
Right.
A little arrogant, a little, overly confident, sure, but he wasn't a dull guy. I actually liked the guy that was playing him in the Fantastic Four movies that they had some years back.
Oh yeah, the actor played the in Horatio Hornblower.
Yeah.
He had Ian something. He had a very strange name, McGruff.
Yeah.
Actually, he looked pretty good. He looked like the original version of Reed Richards. I'm talking about the first 10 episodes, even the first episode. The first book. Fantastic Four #1.
Yeah, I thought he was actually perfect to play Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Like, can we get him back? What was his name? And I've never been a Fantastic Four fan, so take that with a grain of salt.
Well, it was it was really good. The first 10 issues where they introduced, they brought back this. They have the idea of reusing the Human Torch, but the Thing was really great. Ben Grimm, Sue Storm, that's fine. The character they put together a blending of personalities. They were the first superheroes that really struggled.
Yeah.
And you could see character development. I mean, the angst of Ben Grimm. I mean, that was really good writing. They were competing. I mean, it was Popeye and Pluto for crying for olive oil. I mean, the romance element there. So and then Johnny, flaking off and having their problems with Ben Grimm with the things, and runs off and winds up being on Skid Row, where he takes gets a meal there, and he runs across the Submariner in issue 4. And then with Dr. Doom, and then the joining together of Namor and Dr. Doom against the Fantastic Four. But then there's also the love interest between Sue Storm with Namor, the attraction. There's a lot of really great stuff in for 1962, 63, and 64.
Oh yeah.
So
there was a lot more in there than just superheroes fighting supervillains.
Yes, and that to me is Kirby.
I think I will say this. I think the MCU has done a disservice by not having these guys in here beforehand. Of course, like, I know that there was copyright and stuff like that, but they went so into other stuff. A lot of this stuff involved the Fantastic Four. For instance, like the Inhumans. They tried to come out with the Inhumans series, but the Inhumans, Medusa and everything, were introduced as kind of an enemy aspect of the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you kind of missed out on a lot of the development for that. Like Namor, I'm sorry, Namor shouldn't have showed up. Shouldn't have been an antagonist in what's that? This last Black Panther 2.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
like I didn't see it, but I've got people who like to tell me how things ended.
Spoiler alert.
And they told me the way that it ended. They didn't like the way it ended, and I'm looking at it like, oh yeah, well that's Namor. I said, he was just too powerful. I said, yeah, well, that's Namor. I don't know what to tell you. That's the kind of character he was. He was around. He was around even before Fantastic Four, though, wasn't he? He was.
He was the first character. Human Torch and Namor are the first two superheroes of Marvel in the 1940.
Yeah,
they're in Marvel #1.
Yeah,
Marvel Comics #1 introduced both the Human Torch and Namor, and they were there before Captain America.
Yeah,
and the Human Torch was a robot, wasn't he?
Yes.
Wasn't Johnny Storm? It was a robot.
No. Created by Phineas Horton. Little trivia question there. Trivia knowledge.
Yeah, it's hard to believe people don't realize that there was actually Marvel before there was Stan Lee.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were the invaders for World War II.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Stan Lee was, he was in high school.
Yeah.
He was the gopher, the ultimate, the ultimate story of a guy who basically went out for sandwiches and wound up because his uncle or whatever it was, that was Martin Goldman, was the publisher. Or Goodman.
Yeah, it was his wife's uncle.
Yeah.
It's just no nepotism there. No.
No.
But at least that was nepotism that worked out, right? But yeah, so it was Marvel when Namor showed up, or was it still timely?
It was timely.
It was timely, but it was Marvel Comics. That was Marvel Comics #1. See,
right?
And Goodman used a lot of different titles, companies. Atlas. Then Timely. But he would do a whole lot of different things, and he was publishing pulp novels, and that's why that was his thing, and so they broke into the comics set. This is 1940, and with Superman, so they get whatever they could, what kind of different heroes, and that was the thing back then. You had one power. And that was your specialty, so.
Yeah. And Superman was just leaping over tall buildings.
Yeah. Allison says Namor actually predates Marvel Comics #1. Okay. I know that that there were a number of water characters, and who was the artist? Hold on a second. Who created Namor? And he did some Waterman stuff too. Let's see here.
So what makes the difference between, say, Namor and Aquaman?
Aquaman is a ripoff of Namor.
I knew that. But I know Aquaman talks to fish. That's really...
Well, he could tell. Yeah, he could. Yeah, it's kind of like if we could talk to the animals.
Bill Everett, yeah.
Yeah. So This is a great book. This is really fun.
So before, because in the Fantastic Four, he's a very cocky guy. He's
Yeah.
Was he that type of character beforehand?
Are you talking about the Human Torch?
No, Namor. Like before, he.
Well, my memory of Namor is he always hated humans because of what they did to Atlantis. He was always fighting humans. Yeah. I mean, he wound up being, fighting the Nazis also. So, he used that, but he was always having a problem right at the beginning.
Yeah. He did not like the surface world at all.
No, he did not.
Yeah, Motion Picture Funnies Weekly #1. It was uncirculated and where the ash can comes from.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I know they drastically changed the character for the movie now. He's not in some different world or whatever the case is. It's not Atlantis.
No.
But I hear he's still pretty powerful. He's still as powerful as he was. That's caused a lot of problems with people. It's like, yeah, but that's Namor. I mean, at least they got that right.
Yeah, he's always been one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel universe.
Like to the point where, well, you could have destroyed this the entire time. Yeah. Well, why didn't you? Didn't want to. Didn't care. It's not that important. But anyway, it looks like it's about that time. We've gone from YouTube tutorials to gangsters to Namor. Go ahead.
We've covered the spectrum.
That's great. I'm going to put you up. Rodney, you go ahead and tell everybody where we can find you.
All right. Hey, gang, you can find me at Rodney Fyke Art on Facebook and Instagram. You can also on Twitch as well. You go to the Hasm YouTube channel or go to hasm.com where you can check out all of our books. That's HAZZUM.com. Check out our books such as Peanut Pudding and Jelly, Unchained, Pitter Patter, Roadkill, Rampage, and coming soon to a Kickstarter near you in 2023, Doghouse.
All right.
And also here on the Indie Comics Network, 4 nights a week. Dispatches outside. Is it beyond the box or outside the box?
Outside the box.
It's outside the box.
You got to think outside the box.
Outside the box. Okay, there we go. Yeah. On Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. And Thursday night Throwdown at 8 p.m. and right here every Saturday at 10 a.m. with the fellas.
Yeah. John?
Yes. Well, you can find me here on Saturdays with Sketchy Saturdays. And I'm on YouTube. I've got my channel, John Celestri, and I'm on Facebook as John Celestri. But soon, in February, I will be on the Indie Comics After Dark with The Devil's in the Details. And we'll be a bit more mature in terms of what I'm animating and storytelling about. And so that'll be a lot of fun.
Woohoo!
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm C. Michael Lanning. Of course, like Rodney says, you can find me next on Dispatches from Outside the Box this Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we will be discussing pirates and how the pirates have influenced us over the generations and years of different types of pirates, from anywhere from Long John Silver to Captain Hook, real pirates like Blackbeard, or who else? Who knows when it's going to come up? So check that out. And well, that's it. Apparently. See you next Saturday.
Bye.